you all for being here. I think this is a very important conversation. I've got 24,002 reasons to care about this. 24,000 open computing jobs in Washington State right now, and 2 little Kilmer girls. I've got a 4-year-old named Tess and a 7-year-old named Sophie, and Sophie's newest passion is the Codable and Hopscotch apps on the iPad, which teach coding concepts, and she totally geeks out on it. Let me start on the 24,000. I'd just invite you, and maybe I'll start with Mr. Partovi and invite others to chime in. Be more directive to us. I mean, outside of CSEA, and Dr. Jona, you mentioned the potential of trying to have the government promote distribution platforms for some of these things. Are there other things that Congress ought to do to step up, not just to fill the 24,000 jobs in my state, but to ensure that we have a workforce for the next generation?
Sure, absolutely. You know, I looked at this, the core issue in computer science, which is driving these jobs, is the high school pipeline. And the reason the CSEA bill is, you know, it's a no-brainer. It only removes barriers, doesn't increase funding. It does what constitutionally the federal government should be doing, which is giving more control to the states. But if you want to go beyond that, I wouldn't say to increase funding, but look at the existing $3 billion in STEM funding, or the existing $1.5 billion in K through 12 STEM funding. How much of that is going to computer science? I would say today almost none of it, because in a high school, when they get STEM funding, STEM means biology, chemistry, physics, environmental sciences, and calculus. And I have nothing against those things, but they don't even think of computer science as a STEM topic. We all think of STEM as robotics, engineering, computer science, coding. That is not what our schools think. So the STEM funding you're providing, billions of it, goes where the jobs aren't actually.
I'd invite others to chime in if there's other suggestions for Congress.
I'll give you a suggestion. I know that the two sides of Congress seem to be polarized on a lot of issues. I can tell you from my day job, I have 500 engineers. We work on a lot of projects for a lot of big companies, most of which you've heard about are members of FIRST as well. But in my day job, I now have 30 openings. We've been hiring as fast as we can. We can't find tech people just like the rest of these people. I have people here on H-1B visas. It costs me a lot of time and a lot of money to acquire these people and to get them in. We're happy to pay the money because they're so valuable. But of course, I'd rather give the jobs to homegrown people. We know that you have a bill going through that is going to increase the H-1B fees to tech companies. You know, what would make that a lot easier for these tech companies to swallow is to know that some of that money is being used to solve their long-term problem. Yeah. If you could say, whichever side, hey, when it's not even a new tax, it's not even new money, take that HBV one fee money, put some of it aside to solve the problem so that down the road we don't have to keep doing it this way. And I would suggest that if you could take some of that money and make it available to these schools so that they can internally leverage all the things you've just heard about. The amount of time and money it would take to internally build a robotics program, to bring in world-class scientists and engineers to be in classrooms, you can't do it. You don't need to do it. They're there. They're free. Let the schools leverage these programs by just giving them the stipend for the coach, the ability to pay the fee to get to the event, and figure out how to focus that money on the schools that need it most. That way you're solving multiple problems. I hope you'd get consensus. I know industry would be way more supportive of paying higher H-1B visa fees if they thought it's solving their problem.
Thank you. With the minute I have left, let me ask, let me focus on the two. And that is, Mr. Partovi, you mentioned the failure to see adequate representation of women and minorities in the STEM fields. Again, how do you think the federal government is doing in terms of some of its programs to broaden diversity in the STEM fields? And can you give direction, whether it be through NSF programs or others, to what we ought to do to raise our game?
Sure. First of all, what I showed was not about STEM. It was just about computer science, because that's my focus. The two issues are slightly different. The female participation is a cultural one. girls being just the culture all around them making them think this is not for me. Whereas the African American and Hispanic American issue is much more of just availability. There's equal or even greater interest level among African Americans or Hispanic Americans in computer science, but the schools don't teach it. So, and that's the bigger problem that I would suggest that you guys focus on. The cultural issue, I think efforts like FIRST and efforts like code.org will actually change the culture. The fact that we got 10 million girls learning an hour of code last month, that's going to start and have a trickle effect, and we're going to do that year after year.